of the student organizers of the tournament, and I'll be the host of tonight's match. I'm joined by Maruna, who's going to act as a timekeeper. She will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when your time has elapsed. Secondly, I'm also joined by Francesco, who's going to be streaming the event to YouTube for everyone to be watching, as well as the judges, obviously, then. Lastly, I would like to mention the rest of the organizational team who has been helping behind the scenes with the design, promotional material, drafting the rules, meeting with the universities and the teams, but most important of all, helping to make this tournament the great success it is. Thank you, Charlotte, Belle, Michaela, Maruna, who's here, Sophia, Noelia, and Fatira. So our esteemed judges of today will be Professor Alexandra Gomez-Trifisino from Dom Helder. We have Clarissa Brandau, who's here present with us also from Dom Helder. And then we have Dr. Romana Leminska from Ukraine. So I would like to introduce the teams and the members. So our match today is between the University of Poitiers and the Hague University of Applied Sciences. Poitiers' team is composed of Josepha, Tsira, Leona, and Tuas's team is represented by Alexandra, Martin, and Altamash Khalil. The thesis question for the match is, what is illegal to say offline must be illegal to say online. A topic on the internet and law, and a quote by the Commission's President, Ursula von der Leyen. Now I'm going to draw who's going to be in favor and against the statement. I'm going to share my screen, and the first university that's going to pop up will be in favor. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yes, it's on.
So Poitiers is going to be in favor of this statement, and then Tuas is going to be against the statement. Did you all receive that? Yes?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My colleagues are now going to set a timer for 5 minutes for you guys to prepare, and then we're going to proceed with the opening arguments. Yes?
Okay.
And before starting the time, I would just add, could everyone turn their mics off, because we can hear you well, Marie. And I'm going to start the time now.
Hi guys, your time for preparation has elapsed. I hope everyone's ready, since I'm going to invite Poitiers to make their first opening statements. Go ahead when you're ready. Also, can everyone turn off their camera unless they're speaking? Is that possible? Yeah, go for it.
So, do I go now?
Yeah.
Okay. Honorable judges, distinguished colleagues, my name is Leona, and along with my colleagues Tsira and Josepha, we strongly believe that what is illegal to say offline must be just as illegal to say online. Indeed, with the ever-growing digitalization of our daily lives, we all find ourselves existing simultaneously in real life and online. And we've seen it over the last year during this pandemic more than ever before. And so the internet has become one of our main ways of enjoying our right to freedom of speech and of expressing ourselves. It seems only natural in that aspect that what is said offline should also be illegal to say online. And the fact that the online environment is so accessible allows any expression to be disseminated online. The platform changes, but the content can be just as harmful, which is why we believe that hate speech must be prohibited offline as much as it is online, as part of freedom of speech restrictions mentioned in numerous international instruments, such as Article 20, Paragraph 2 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, both of which, after reaffirming the right to freedom of opinion and expression, mention its limits and its restrictions, because it is not an absolute right. Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights states that the exercise of the right to freedom of speech, and I quote, carries with it its duties and responsibilities, which may be subject to restrictions. And Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and I quote here again, through any media and regardless of frontiers. And I want to insist on that last bit, through any media. In the new online dimension that freedom of expression has been given, freedom of speech restrictions must naturally apply through any media and regardless of any frontiers as well. So, as I've said before, freedom of speech is not an absolute right. It's not, which is why Article 20, Paragraph 2 also implements positive obligations on government who have adopted the International Covenant on Political and Civil Rights, who are required to take action and prohibit hate speech in the name of what we call operative public values, because indeed the law is a reflection of the values that we as a society want to protect, and the values that we cherish and protect as part of our collective identity. Because prohibiting hate speech in that sense is also about sending a political message to show that the dignity and rights of each person in their identity is respected and protected in real life and behind the screen, and no one hiding behind anonymity to spread hateful content should feel protected. It's not only what is illegal to say offline must be illegal to say online, it's that what is illegal to say offline is illegal to say online. Besides the previous international instruments that I've mentioned, an additional protocol to the Convention on Cybercrime concerning the criminalization of acts as a racist and xenophobic nature committed through computer systems was adopted by the European Union, which requires states on a national level to enforce effective measures to fight against xenophobic and racist conduct on the media. And because it's important for us to take into account the broader impact hate speech can have online. We believe that the content that is posted publicly for everyone to see should be regulated in conformity with the laws that are in place for real life offenses, because just because something is said online does not mean that its effects don't extend to the real world. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite the Hague to make their opening statements.
Just to clarify, am I audible and can you guys see me? Thank you. Founding father Benjamin Franklin once said that without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech. Good evening. My name is Altamash Khalil. Along with my colleagues Martin Stumpf and Alexandra Sarban, I'll be arguing against the statement, what is illegal to say offline must be illegal to say online. We're going to substantiate our position by expounding on the following points. Firstly, right to freedom of expression and freedom of speech should be upheld. And secondly, internet requires a different and new legal regime. It is important to emphasize the most basic human right applicable both in online and offline space, the right to expression and freedom of speech. The most relevant example is the United States of America, since a lot of online platforms are based in the US and American voices dominate most of the English language conversation on online platforms. The First Amendment to the US Constitution states that Congress is prohibited from creating laws abridging the freedom of speech, particularly due to the fact that in this digital world that we are living in, it is difficult to prove which hateful words incite or lead to hateful actions. Even in the largest democracy in the world, India, the Supreme Court struck down unconstitutionally vague laws on online, arbitrary, excessive, and disproportionate invasion of free speech, giving the government an undue amount of power because the law led to arbitrary detention and arrest. Online Harms White Paper, a white paper produced by the British government in April 2019. It underlines that internet is sufficiently different because it merits a different legal regime from the offline world. The regime the white paper proposes identify specific differences that have given rise to particular online harms that are not adequately addressed by existing offline laws. And then it brings forward tailored legislation to address those particular harms. There is no uniformity of law and jurisdiction. A British woman was detained in Dubai after calling her ex-husband's new wife a horse on Facebook. She faced 2 years in jail and up to a £50,000 fine. In the UK, this action would have had no consequence. Scrutinizing online speech in relation to laws developed for offline speech is a slippery slope. As the saying goes, equity depends on the length of the chancellor's foot. An even bigger issue, how would different judges construe and apply laws of an offline context to online setting? In an online environment, the level of intent of the accused cannot be properly measured because all that is visible is actus reus, not mens rea. In simpler terms, you simply cannot prosecute online speech because it is so difficult to discern that the online user's state of mind. Is a questionable Facebook post automatically considered hate speech or defamation simply because it appears that way? Our point is simple. We are not saying that illegal online conduct should have no ramifications. Use of illegal online speech in the light of laws defined for offline speech is utterly ineffective, because if the standard of proof is not the same, then the courts would be contravening the most basic fundamental right, the right to freedom of speech. Thank you so very much for listening intently.
Thank you. I would like to invite Poitiers to make their first argument.
Hello, honorable judges and distinguished colleagues. My name is Tsira, and I will try to react to what has been said by the opposition team. Firstly, I would like to react to the statement that was said at the beginning of their speech, which referred to Benjamin Franklin's quote regarding to freedom of speech being the ideal of the society that we all live in. I would like to reiterate that the times that we live in right now are different from the times that these words have been said. And indeed, you continued with the fact that the right to expression is not threatened by adopting this principle. However, I would like to say that the freedom of speech will not be threatened by adopting the principle that we are discussing today, since censorship laws and that were referred to by you implemented in India are a very inaccurate example of adopting this principle on the international scale, because just by judging by one country's legislation, crossing out this principle would be very harmful to the global society that lives on the internet. Just like the first speaker of my team said, we all live on an online platform, and day by day it is becoming even harder and harder to distinguish the real world from the online platforms that we use every day. So by arguing that it will be hard to distinguish the national laws from the international laws, it is futile to argue that this means that we should just cross out this principle. Going by the approach that we have to the international laws today, for example, the principles that we all live by, for example, the fact that it is illegal to discriminate against
Thank you. I would like to invite The Hague to make their first argument.
Thank you very much. Before we start, am I audible? Am I visible? Am I?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Before presenting our arguments, I would first like to thank the colleague from the other team for the insightful comments. It was well mentioned by the opposing team that different personalities are applicable to the online and offline world. In the digital world, it is almost impossible to prove the intent of one person. The line between hate speech and free speech is thin offline as is, and even thinner online. The limitations of free speech is an extreme example, which are of course worthy of prosecution. However, in most cases, those extremes are not applicable. We're not arguing against the notion that the limitations on freedom of speech and anonymity should not be enforced online. We're stressing that the existing online legal framework should not be applied online, but rather a new legal regime. Many things can be perceived as potentially illegal when it is actually a part of the act. As an example, comedians' provocative speech when transcribed into a text and posted online is missing the element of intention behind it and can be interpreted as hate speech despite the author's actual intent. Irony is lost on the online world. Moreover, all jurisdictions are different and lack uniformity. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite Poitiers to make their second argument.
Hello again. I would like to thank the opposition team speaker for her interesting addition. I would like to react by adding some points. You mentioned that it's impossible to prove someone's intentions online just through the text, and that irony is lost on the person reading the text. However, while that is true, we would like to reiterate that adopting this principle, it is very general and it lacks nuance. However, it's just a statement made by a person who seeks and thrives and strives towards making the online community a safer place. Therefore, we're not arguing to adopt this principle as it is and refuse to give it any nuance and any details anymore. It is just a general statement that we are discussing exactly for the purpose of reinventing the legal framework and trying to apply it to the online community. We're just stating a principle that we should all live by and believe in on an international level, and then we can start working together towards applying it to the online community and individual states that will try and ratify the statement. Thank you. That was all.
Thank you. I would like to invite The Hague for their second argument as well.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, opposing team, for your comments. Indeed, as you have mentioned, times are different, but so is the definition of freedom of speech that has evolved. it is an inalienable right, which means that it doesn't matter which times we live in. We cannot disregard India because it is the biggest democracy. Thereof, it is very important that the case laws coming from there is put on onto our attention. We are not crossing out principle. Our stance is that it is necessary to establish a new legal regime. In the new regime, we identify specific differences that have given rise to particular online harms that are not adequately addressed by existing laws that are offline. And then we bring forward the tailored legislation to address those particular harms. UK's leading cyber law expert, Graham Smith, says that the online harms white paper marks a significant departure from online-offline equivalence. The new nostrum is that the internet is different, so requires a new and different legal regime, which is exactly what we're arguing in favor. My colleague has mentioned the fact that we have to work together, but that's exactly what we are doing here and what we're arguing in favor. When it comes to making what is illegal offline, illegal online, it is important to note as well which jurisdiction would the online space function under. A big part of legislation is based on national jurisprudence and case law. In the case of the internet, where we connect with people from all around the world, as was rightly mentioned by my colleague, on a daily basis, it is impossible to determine whether a crime was committed if it was made by a national of, let's say, United States towards a national of Russia, an offense in Russia, but not in the United States. In the case, would drown in the bureaucracy of determining which legislature to use. Thus, there has to be a universal system, a new legal regime that we're advocating for. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite Poitiers to make their last argument or conclusion.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, then I will quickly respond to the team in their argument that yes, it's a great ideal, but that's not technically possible because we can't identify who can deliver hate speech online, etc. But because it is not technically possible, does that mean that we have to give up on it? Does that mean that we don't have to that we don't have to punish the ones that deliver hate speech? I don't think so. And because liberty of speech exists and is a right, yes, you mentioned irony as an example because it's difficult to identify what is irony or not. But surprisingly, in the newspapers, that's used, and there's no problem. So why is it a problem online? Then I will do a conclusion. Saying that for us there is a digitalization of hate speech and it should be prohibited online, and because it is offline, of course, and a lot of international instruments, as Leona said, are explaining that it is our right to punish hate speech online, and there are positive obligations on governments to limit the freedom of speech, and in the name of operative public values, this is a public problem. Then we can say that the jurisdictional aspect, we should. I can't see. What's written? Oh, sorry.
Your time has elapsed. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So then I
thank you. I would like to invite The Hague to make their last arguments as well.
Okay, to clarify, am I audible and visible?
Yes.
All right. Thank you to the opposing team for that statement. But to make our position clear again, we're not arguing that laws on hate speech, for instance, should not be enforced. We've simply tried to illustrate the difficulty of enforcing domestic laws online, and that we require a new legal framework for specifically that. So moving into the conclusion, dear colleagues, To briefly conclude our points in opposition to today's thesis statement, I will now summarize the main arguments that we've made in the course of this debate. First, freedom of speech is an inalienable right, as my colleagues have demonstrated, and it should apply to all domains of public discourse, including and not limited to online ones. If you give higher authorities the power to regulate online discourse, you empower them to limit the freedom of expression. The Indian law prohibiting offensive online posts is a perfect example of that, which the Indian Supreme Court struck down and called an arbitrary and excessive invasion of free speech. And let us also remember that the internet is a new and unique space, which necessitates an appropriate new legal regime so we can properly prosecute crimes that happen online. It is often preemptive and even unwarranted to prosecute online speech because it can be difficult to judge the intention of an online user, as we've pointed out before, who posted something that could be viewed as harmful. We therefore need a more nuanced approach, especially keeping in mind that there's a difference between our online personalities and our actual personalities. And in these cases, we should really err on the side of caution and not do away with the rights of online posters at the first sign of transgression. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we call them civil rights for a reason, because they cannot be taken away from you. So let us protect these rights in the online sphere as well by approaching online activity with care and with sensitivity from a legal standpoint. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, that was the end of the debate. I hope you all enjoyed it. I would like to invite the judges for a small feedback session if they have some. So I'll give the floor to them. Yes, if any of the judges wants to start, yeah.
I would like to thank both teams. I found both presentations very interesting, both very good. It will be hard to decide, to judge, and just thank all of you for being here, and again to thank both teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I just want to thank you the opportunity to be with you today. It's an honor. It's a very, very interesting competition, and I am enjoying to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more judge here, Dr. Levichka. I'm not sure if she has any feedback. If she doesn't, that's also fine. No? Okay. Anyways, we'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. I hope you all enjoy the debate. Have a good weekend. Good night, and see you soon in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.